In the opening scene, we see a man, Nolan Wright, a renowned photographer who is married to a lady named Rachel and has a daughter named Ava. Unfortunately, he had an accident 6 months ago, resulting in the loss of his wife. He woke up with severe memory loss, struggling to recall anything about himself. As such, he relies heavily on Ava's reminder for him to remember most of the things. He watches Ava's birth video but can't recognize her. Frustrated, he turns off the TV and checks his photo album, still unable to recall. While attempting to rest, he feels restrained in the chair, screaming until he awakens to Ava's voice, calling him. She informs him of a meeting with his new boss in 30 minutes and urges him to prepare. Showing a photo, she asks for the lady's name and mistakenly says Karen. Correcting him, Ava identifies the lady as Kathy, his ex-boss. She advises him on the things he will do to convince her that he has recovered. They quickly prepare for school and she gives him food before they leave. Before leaving, Nolan gets a message from Dr. Brooks inviting him to participate in her memory research. Despite the offer, he declines to attend. He takes Ava to school, and while attempting to smoke, Ava takes the cigarettes away, reminding him he doesn't smoke. He apologizes for yelling at her the previous day, but she understands, thinking he's just unwell and frustrated. As Ava is about to leave the car, she tries to do his signature handshake with him, but he misses the steps. She reassures him, saying he'll remember next time. Later, Nolan meets Kathy, who informs him that the publisher rejected him due to the lower quality of his recent pictures after his accident. Depressed, he goes to the hospital to meet his best friend, Dr. Gary Yaboa. Nolan informs Gary about his job situation, and though Gary offers financial assistance until Nolan finds a job, he declines expressing confidence in managing on his own. Gary notices Nolan's bandaged hands and inquires about the cause. Nolan explains he got upset with himself and punched the wall. Gary is surprised by Nolan losing his temper, noting it's a rare occurrence. During a call with another doctor, Gary suggests working with Dr. Brooks, acknowledging her method is risky but having a higher success rate, assuring Nolan he'll be fine. He accompanies Nolan to Brooks' office, leaves him there, and goes back to his own office. After reviewing Nolan's files, Brooks suggests that although his memory is present, it's suppressed, so she recommends he undergo hypnotic therapy. She proposes they have a session together. During the session, Nolan enters a dark room, sits in a chair within his subconscious, and encounters a person restrained. Startled, he screams, snapping back to reality. He reveals to Brooks that he's been having this recurring dream. Brooks interprets it as a sign of his subconscious being active and his memories deeply ingrained. She notes that such experiences are rare in initial sessions, suggesting that with more extended sessions, he could recover his memory. Later, Nolan forgets to pick up Ava from school, prompting the teacher to bring her home. The teacher issues a warning about the potential involvement of social services if it happens again. Upon his return, Nolan finds Ava in tears, apologizing for feeling like a burden. She mentions the recent incident where he screamed at her for the first time and forgot to pick her up. Ava expresses feelings unwanted. Nolan apologizes and she forgives him. Disturbed by his relationship with Ava, Nolan revisits Brooks, who suggests a deeper therapy called the Black Box to recover his memories. She explains the process of connecting his subconscious to the box and instructs him to find a safe place in his mind before entering. Once in the box, he can experience memories in 3D. Brooks warns that leaving the safe place may hinder his return, and she advises using an analog watch to access specific memories by pushing the crown. As Nolan pushes the watch crown, he is transported to his wedding day in a church, but as the people in there have their faces blurred and a distorted figure attacks him, prompting him to wake up. Brooks explains the figure signifies his resistant recollection. Later, while checking his wedding photos, Nolan realizes his memory is inaccurate, as he has had his wedding done outdoors, not indoors. He sees a chopstick which triggers a memory of bringing Ava to a sushi restaurant where she was little. In the next session, Nolan informs Brooks about taking Ava to a memory place, eager to recall more. Brooks explains blurred faces occur when he leaves the black box too quickly. She advises a longer stay and instructs him to confront the distorted man, urging him to assert control over his memory. Nolan re-enters the black box and discovers himself in a different house, not his current one. He carries a little girl and hears a woman crying, noticing she's being abused. Before identifying the assailant, the man appears. Nolan recites Brooks' recommended phrase, but the man strangles him, prompting him to wake up. Confused about what's happening to his memories, Nolan consults Brooks, who assures him clarity will come with time. He questions Gary about hitting Rachel, but Gary vehemently denies it, stating Rachel is like a sister. Gary affirms they have always lived in their current house. Puzzled, Nolan researches the landmarks from his memories. After picking up Ava from school, he visits the area and the house, feeling a strange familiarity. He knocks and a girl opens the door. She goes to call her mother, but when she is away, he enters, and the house seems familiar. He runs away and goes to Gary to write the address on his hand, asking him to research it. Gary gets suspicious and decides to check on Nolan's medical records and discovers he's classified as brain dead. Meanwhile, Nolan returns to Brooks for another session. This time, he insists on seeing the blurred faces as he wants his memory back. So he retaliates against the figure who is trying to stop him. Moments later, a recollection of memories starts happening and he can see the lady's face. To his astonishment, the woman he married is the same lady from the house. Startled, he revisits the mirror in his memory, revealing a different face. Realizing he's now a different person, he soon remembers his wife and his mother at the restaurant. Brooks hears him calling her mom and realizes that his son is finally back. Brooks reveals his name is Thomas, and he is her son. Thomas is shocked at the instance and questions his mother about what did she do to him. Brooks explains that after he slipped from the stairs and was brought to the hospital, it was already too late to save him, so she downloaded his consciousness. She was waiting for a brain-dead person to give the memory to, and that was when she found Nolan. Thomas is shocked in disbelief, and Brooks implores him, emphasizing that he's been given a second chance in life to set things straight and become a devoted husband to Miranda and a caring father to their daughter, Ashley. Presenting pictures of his family, she convinces him and he departs to fetch Ava. He brings Ava to stay at Gary's house for a few days, and when Ava expresses her objections, he raises his voice in response. Before leaving, she holds his hand and writes something. Gary attempts to discuss the ongoing situation, but he remains silent. Before leaving, he takes a look at his hand to see what Ava has written and miserably heads to Miranda's house. Despite his efforts, she fails to recognize him, prompting him to fabricate a story about being a friend of Thomas. He pleads with her to welcome him inside and inquires about her collection of Brooks' therapy, sharing the actions of his mother. He recounts the details, yet she dismisses his claims and insists that he departs. However, as he begins to mention details only familiar to Thomas, she is shocked. In disbelief, she demands him to leave, but he begs for a second chance and promises to start all over again with her. Suddenly, he sees that his pictures have been taken away from home and that Miranda has already let go of him. He gets pissed and screams, but she asks him to leave. He tries to go to Ashley's room, but she holds him, and he pushes her away. Inside the room, she strikes the back of his head, causing him to lose consciousness. He later regains awareness outside Gary's house with a bleeding head. He tries to leave with the car and sees the distorted figure before driving away. He returns to Brooks, who tells him that he has to regain consciousness entirely by killing the distorted man inside of him. He returns to the black box, and when the man returns, his face shows and turns out to be Nolan. He informs his mother, who tells him to kill Nolan. He strikes Nolan, who refrains from retaliating, and then proceeds to use a knife with the intention of stabbing Nolan. Meanwhile, Gary finds the address in his hand and browses it, then reads everything about Thomas and Brooks. He rushes to Brooks' laboratory just as Brooks initiates the countdown for Thomas to eliminate Nolan and return. That is when Ava calls for her father, and Thomas hears. He recalls how he died, how he was fighting with Miranda, how Ashley intervened, and how he pushed Ashley away. In a fit of anger, Miranda forcefully shoves him, causing him to fall down the stairs. Recognizing that he is unworthy of a second chance, he exits the secure room and goes back to a dimly lit space. Brooks brings Nolan out of the black box, expecting it to be Thomas. However, Nolan brings Ava closer and does his normal greetings with her. Disappointed, Brooks wants to put him back into the black box, but Gary reminds her of her oath. Gary destroys the black box and they leave. In the next scene at home, Nolan reunites with Ava and they catch up with old times. Meanwhile, Miranda comes across the news of Brooks being dismissed. In the final scene, Brooks is seen reactivating the black box while uploading Thomas's brainwave file. Knowing that Thomas's consciousness is still active, she smiles in hopes of bringing him back in another experiment as the movie ends. Subscribe to watch more videos like this. Leave a like to help the channel out. Also leave a comment if you'd like us to recap your favorite movie. Thanks for watching.